Wild Turkey, Master's Keep Beacon, the last Master's Keep. There's a lot of people who are already saying that this is Bourbon of the Year. While it has finally made its way to Washington, I want to see how this thing compares to a couple of the other really good releases that we've had so far. Does it stand out beyond, say, something like the Russell's 13 that's come out, or the Single Rick Houses? So we're going to answer that today in 2 Minute Tuesday. A lot of people have been going gaga over the packaging for this thing, because it's like barrel char, and it's a cardboard box, people. I mean, it's a pretty cardboard box, don't get me wrong, but it's a cardboard box. It's not like it's wood or metal or something really crazy. However, it does look nice. And this, at 118 proof, is a blend of 16-year-old and 10-year-old Wild Turkey bourbon. So how can we compare that to other releases that have come out, whether we're looking at, like, say, the Russell's 13 from this year, the Batch 6, or some of the other, like, really high-end things that are out there? Let's get this thing poured and just see, is it as good as people are going on about, or are they just trying to stay in the club and keep getting free whiskey? Cork. Nice. Before I dig into my pour, I do have to thank the bourbon baller Lee over at Renton Highlands QFC. He helped me get this Washington SRP, so this ended up being $320 after tax. Yes, I know. Expensive. However, compared to a lot of other places, and if you look at the secondary market, pretty fair price overall. With that being said, let's get into 2 Minute Tuesday and see how this one shakes up. As always, we start with color. You can see, lovely, but pretty typical bourbon color there. Maybe just like a hint, kind of reddish tone, some auburn in there. We've got some great legs trailing through here. There's some pretty good oiliness at 118 proof. Let's get to the nose. So, the first thing I'm getting from the nose, it is way softer than I would have thought at 118 proof. It is very relaxed, but there's a very prominent, like, turkey spice note. There's a very prominent cherry, and I would say like a very dark, almost Bing cherry kind of thing going on here. Those are the two big ones that are in my face. There's a little bit of vanilla and kind of a caramel thing going on. There's definitely some oak influence in the nose. The nose is great, albeit, again, very gentle. So let's see how that comes over into the palate. Okay. Alright, I see what you're talking about. Ooh, it's just going too. First thing, right away, first sip. In my face, prominent note is that, like, turkey spice note. I know I've said this a few times with a few things, like the most recent Camp Nelson Single Rick B and the Russell's 13 Batch 6. The prominent note is that kind of turkey spice, as I like to call it. And that is definitely going on here. But it does, well, it lingers through basically the entirety of the finish. From the very start to the finish, it's just there. There's this nice evolution that sits underneath. So up front, you get a little bit of that cherry with the turkey spice. It transitions in, and then you start getting into some kind of darker fruity note, but I can't really place exactly what it is. But you get a lot of caramel and wood influence starting to come in. That's really nice, aged turkey kind of thing coming through. There's a little bit of honey and a little bit of vanilla that's really undertoned under that, but the big things are a little bit of fruitiness, a lot of spice, a little bit of caramel. Good amount of oak coming through toward the tail end. The leather kind of kicks back up, so there's a little bit in the middle, and it kicks up a little bit toward the finish. And the spice. That spice is just there through the whole pour. Man, I like it. So let's get into an overall score for Beacon, the last Master's Keep. I'm going to give this a 90. A lot of people are going gaga for this thing, and it is very, very good. I don't know that it's as crazy or complex a ride for my palate as that Penelope Founders. It is extremely good whiskey, and this might be like the perfect Wild Turkey pour, at least modern Wild Turkey pour, because it has all of the hallmarks of what you want out of Wild Turkey: the cherry, the spice, the oak, the sugars that are in there. And they're all in this wonderful balance, and they take you for a ride. It's not there through the whole thing. It evolves throughout, but you've got that spice that kind of carries all the way through, and that I really, really like. The only thing that I don't get out of this is like the turkey funk, you know, but I like that I get the turkey spice instead. So with that being said, I want to do a quick compare to the Russell's Reserve 13-year Batch 6. Remember, we said this was very spice forward, so I'm curious if I do a little splash, quick sip and a sniff, how close they are. Now granted, the 13 is the highest proof turkey product that was ever released, like a mass release. Reminder that this Russell's 13 sits at 123.8 proof. So this is almost 6 proof points higher, and remember, turkey doesn't get super high in their proof usually, so that can matter. We'll compare it to the Russells here. So on the nose alone, right away, there definitely is more punch in the 13, but in a kind of ethanol-y way. And that extra proof is really stirring through, but the big thing is the spice is the upfront note, and it really dominates a lot more than it does over on the Beacon, where you get some spice and there's some understuff. Russell's is not like that. It's almost all spice. There's like a tiny hint of cherry and a bit of oak in there, but it's a lot of spice. A lot of spice. Quick sip. Man, it's good though. If you had your option between the two of these, right, at SRP, this is a little cheaper. This is like almost double the price. Close to. Get this. If you can afford it, get this. If not, if you need to save some money and you can find this one at a much more reasonable price, this is a really similar profile. It is just not as complex as the Beacon. On the palate, like, the spice is very forward. The cherry's really just a tiny hint, and then there's a lot of the oak and more of a brown sugar molasses as opposed to a caramel. So it's just more like the difference in, I think, between how you have that 16 and 10-year blend here versus purely 13-plus-year-old product. There's a bit more uniformity here and less complexity in the Russells, where this has a bit more complexity, and it drinks so mellow. This does not drink hot. I want to be very clear. This drink's pretty chill, but it is much more aggressive, and it's really in your face with the spice. While the spice is present all the way through on the Beacon, and it's from the start all the way to the finish, it's like the centerpiece, but it's not domineering over everything else. Where in the Russells, the spice note is domineering over all the other things, and everything in there is a very underlying soft note, where this has a complex kind of ride of notes throughout the evolution on your palate. And that is an experience that I can see why people are saying this is whiskey of the year level bourbon. And this is just really dang good. It just really is. So with that being said, should you hunt this? If you can get it at MSRP, absolutely. And you can afford it. There are a lot of people who don't want to pay that much. And in that regard, I would say, go get the Wild Turkey 8-year. It's spice forward. It's got a lot of similar notes. It just isn't as complex and mellow, and despite the fact that the proof is lower, I actually think it drinks a bit hotter than this does. Funny enough, even though I said it drinks pretty mellow compared to regular 101, and that 8-year is helping pull that down. You're getting that complexity, right? This is definitely an LE caliber whiskey. So is this, but they're in different echelons. Assuming that they were at their MSRP, I would say that they are fair in the difference of the experience. And if you don't want to stomach a whole bottle of this, at least go try a pour at a bar so that you've had it once. Maybe you got a friend who's got a sample of it, something like that. It is very, 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 very good. Very good whiskey. But I don't think, in a blind, it's going to beat out some of the best that are out there for this year. Because I think JD14 is a much more impressive whiskey. I think that Penelope Founders Edition is a more complex and crazy ride. Like, that thing took me all over the place in all the best ways. This is phenomenal. But I don't know if in a blind it can actually compete toe-to-toe with some of the other monsters that are out there this year. And you might have people that, depending on how the new Camp Nelson single rick house is that's coming out, that might have that extra oomph that dethrones this, but it's not available to me yet, so I have no clue. And obviously I'm a Russells fan, so I'm gonna chase it down. Let me do this real fast. Russells? Master's Key. Yeah, even on the nose, there's just more complexity here. Like, you can understand why this is the more higher echelon product. But if it's on your budget, maybe go after this one. And if both of these are out of your budget, go find a Wild Turkey 8-year. They're like between $35 and $50, depending on where you are. I found out in like Chicagoland, they're like $30-something. What a steal. Chicago, you're lucky. That's it. That is Wild Turkey, Master's Keeper, Beacon, Whiskey of the Year candidate? Yes. Do I think it can win? Probably not. But it is exceptional whiskey, and for the very last Master's Keep, they win all out. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you had an opportunity to try Master's Keep, I want to hear you in the comments down below. What were your thoughts? Do you think it was worth it? Do you think it was a waste of money? You might be one of those people who's just like, anything over $60 is a waste of money, Bentley. You're stupid. And that's okay. We're all entitled to how we want to do our whiskey hobby. If you are not subscribed, consider subscribing. At 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to give away a bottle of E.H. Taylor Single Barrel and a couple of other things. Plus that whole like, comment, subscribe. Those are the 3 things that are completely free that tell old Papa YouTube, hey, I like what this person is doing, and I think other people will too. It prevents us from taking stupid sponsorships and all those kind of wonderful things. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.